Welcome to Satsang. Today I'm going to talk about my favorite subject, which is the mystery of love. You know, when we think about life and we read a lot of spiritual books, we think that it is all very complicated. But I've realized, and I've done hypnotherapy for 30 years, and I had my own awakening, and I've realized that it's all very simple and it's all about love. Understanding love. Love is something that you cannot think about, because if you think about it, it's not it. Because it is not something, but it is who you are, and that is the beautiful thing. You know, just a few days ago I read something very powerful, very beautiful. I don't know whether you've heard of Dr. Eben Alexander. Have you? Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, he's a neuroscientist. And he was convinced, because he studied the brain, that consciousness comes from the brain, and there is no God. And this was his talk. Well, one day he got up in the morning with excruciating back pain. It was so bad that he collapsed and went into a coma. To make a long story short, during the coma, he experienced his true state. He wrote a book called The Proof of Heaven, okay? In which he said that he takes back everything that he had said before. There is God, and God is love itself. He says there is a beauty, there is a glory we never thought was possible. And he said consciousness does not come from the brain. The brain is a fiction. It's just a radio transmitter in our body. It sends impulses and energies, of course, you know. But many people have studied the brain and they said that consciousness comes from the brain. No way. Okay? And he made some very nice comments, which later on, if we have time, I'd like to go through them. Anyway, Albert Einstein too said that life is a mystery, and the greatest mystery is love. And if you're not aware of the mystery of love especially, he said you're close to being dead in your feeling nature. But it's so true. You see, when you explore it, you begin to find out more and more how little we know about life. I mentioned before many times, but you know, who is the director of the fetus in a mother's womb to bring those, to create a brain, a liver, a kidney, blood circulation and all that? You see? Isn't that love? Isn't that perfection? When you think about the earth rotating around the sun, creating the calendar time, you know, and the beauty of that, the glory of that, the perfection of that, isn't that love? How can it be any other than love? But we have many ideas about love, and someone sent me a few quotes in Facebook. They were writing about what they think love is, and so maybe I quote you some of them. And they're good, they're very good. They're not, you know, I didn't criticize them at all. Anyway, the most important thing I have found, especially because I've done hypnotherapy, is that all the maladies of humanity, all emotional suffering, anxiety, depression, it doesn't matter what it is, it all comes through seeking love. And if there's anything that you'd like to discuss or ask, please be free, okay? They all come from seeking love. Because seeking love, and this is where it gets interesting, seeking love means that you think, I don't have that love. And it's outside of us. So by seeking it, you're putting it out of yourself. See, your true nature is a human being. You are a human being. The human is personality. It's made up of habits, conditioning, the past, your name, etc., etc. But The being is love itself. But it is the being that keeps the personality going. It is the being that gives action to the personality, that makes the personality, feel and look alive. It is the being. So the nature of us, of who we are, because we are cosmic being, we are one being, we're not separate. It is love itself, you see, which we call God. And it is not something, it is not an entity, it is not something outside of you, it is you itself. And now, you know, consciousness is speeding up at a tremendous rate in these times. And people are beginning to understand things they never understood before. And what is happening now, and I have found in the hundreds of emails I get every week, is that people now are becoming very confused, very frustrated. They are suffering even more than before. Why? Because we are moving at such a high rate. Someone said something like, in the 60s, okay, 1 year now is about 20 years in the 60s. I mean, that's how fast we are moving. And this movement, what is happening is that everything is coming to the surface because we're moving into the fourth dimension. Okay, so everything that we haven't resolved and all the problems and fears and everything that hasn't been is rising now to the surface. So if you start feeling bad, it's not bad. It is a cleansing, and you can see it that way. And I think that my sore throat and my fever came because I went to a sort of a cleansing thing with herbs, and it creates this process. So anyway, so where were we? So yeah, so everything that we can think is negative, is suffering, is very simple. Okay? It is a need for love. Challenge it, please. Don't accept me, just accept it because I'm saying it. Everything that you can think of. Think of any malady, any emotional pain. It doesn't matter what it is. It is a seeking of love.
What about confusion?
Hmm?
What about confusion?
Absolutely. What is confusion? You see, confusion is the difference between two opposing forces. I've been raised up believing this, and now you are telling me this. I am confused. You see, confused is like saying contrary to fusion. You know what I mean? So yeah, so everything that you can think of, because simplicity is the truth itself. Your being is being. You know, it is not something. And it is made up of love, and when you have that love, amazing things happen. Someone sent me a link yesterday about a woman on TED's Talk. Did you ever listen to those TED Talks? Mm-hmm. Aren't they incredible? Mm-hmm. This woman was talking about, she was in an accident, you know, and her body was all just gone to pieces. But she had a drive and a passion to become a helicopter, not a helicopter, sorry, a pilot. You've seen it?
Oh, I saw that, yeah.
You saw it? Yeah, an amazing, amazing woman. So what I'm trying to say is that there is an energy in us that goes beyond the body. You see, that if you believe it's strong enough, like when I got up yesterday morning, I had you know, quite a bit of a fever, and my throat was really bad. I couldn't even talk. And I said, oh my goodness, tomorrow I have satsang. And there's no way that I'm going to cancel it. But I said, well, I'm going to do some qigong, and a way to generate enough energy, enough qi. Are you familiar with qigong? Mm. Enough qi so that I'll be able to carry it through. And it's amazing, it's working. Okay, so far. So, the thing about love is that it is perfection itself. Love is perfect. But listen to this now, because this is where it gets interesting. Love is so perfect that it embraces imperfection, because it becomes unconditional loving. You know, in relationships, this is very common, you know. You fall in love in the beginning and everything is hunky-dory, it's great. And then after a while, people have habits and they begin to get on your nerves, you know. So you just want to quit or, you know, just break the relationship or whatever. But you know, there is such a thing as learning to love unconditionally and in relationship. In Japanese, they call it wabi-sabi. Wabi-sabi love. Have you ever heard it? Okay, wabi-sabi love is this, that the Japanese respect anything that is old and decrepit and imperfect, because they said at least they have experience of life. So they learn to appreciate it. So you see, so they see the imperfect also part of perfection. Let me give you an example which I have heard just not so long ago. There's a husband who is addicted to poppy seed bagels in the morning at breakfast. And he just has to have this. You know, there's no other way that he can have breakfast, not with a poppy seed bagel. So what he does is that by the time he's through and going to work, the beautiful white tiled floor of the kitchen is full of poppy seeds. And the wife goes in there and cleaning it up. And so one day she got fed up and she said, oh, this again? Oh my goodness, you know, how I wish he wouldn't. And then she stopped. And she said, but if I wouldn't see these poppy seeds on the floor, it means he's not around. You see? And I said, I'd rather see these poppy seeds and clean them every day than not having him around. And since then, it was no longer an imperfection. It was part of the perfect love. Okay? Yeah.
It's interesting because I've been thinking about, you know, my whole life is wanting to embrace the notion of unconditional love and be unconditional love as much as I can within my human errors, neurosis, whatever, learning as I go, and seeing what I feel is seeing the divinity in others, and not necessarily paying so much attention to the symptoms or to the behaviors, not by denying them, but actually looking beyond them, like seeing the Christ within. Whatever.
You're embracing the imperfection. Yeah.
But the question is, what happens when it comes in, you know, intimate relationships or romantic relationships when the addiction is not to poppy seed bagels but to alcohol or drugs?
Mm-hmm.
And I have a friend who's, she's not divorced, but she was in a marriage where there was addiction and abuse. And
yes.
Where is the limit where we
but this is the interesting thing, you see, and this is where the deeper understanding about love and fear has to come in, which I'll go into a little detail, but let me address that. When somebody becomes an alcoholic, okay, did you know that it takes two to tango? Nothing happens by chance. If a person becomes an alcoholic after you married him, there's something that you need to look at. You see, if he was before, then why did you marry him? If you're going to know that you might not want to put up with him. You see, so the point I'm trying to say is that nothing happens by chance. There are no accidents in the universe. Everything that is happening because somehow or other we need to learn it. We need to learn this lesson. And if you don't learn it, you see, which the Course in Miracles calls forgiveness, if you don't learn it, then you have to keep on repeating it over and over again, aggravating it and making it even worse. Okay? So, I don't know whether I've addressed your point. See, all emotions are based on love and fear. Okay? Now, 95% of all emotions are fear. Asajola, the founder of psychosynthesis, said that 95% of our energy is spent protecting, defending, and maintaining our ego, our self-image. And there isn't any. It's all imagination. So in the same way that 95% of our energy is negative. But why are we negative, you see? Now here where it comes really interesting. Are you listening? Okay. Yeah. Fear, love is our greatest fear. You see, love is what we want more than anything. We want it more than anything because it fulfills us. It's the fullness of being. It gives us happiness, it gives us peace, it gives us joy, it gives us fullness. But at the same time, love is not something. It is not a thing. You see, love is an emptiness. Love is a voidness. Love is a, you know, you're walking in a forest or you're going to the beach and you do walking meditation, let's say, and there is nothing that's disturbing your mind and you enter this silence, this emptiness. And you feel the love. Because the moment you open your eyes, if you're walking down the beach and you feel the silence, the moment you open your eyes, you see the dog or a cat or an old man or an old woman, you love them. You notice? When you are in that state of openness, in that state of being here, love is with you. But you see, love is also represents something that frightens us. Because the mind likes to keep busy. It likes to think, it likes to figure things out. It reaches conclusions, it has ideas, opinions, you see, and logic. And I'm not saying that these things are wrong, because they exist, and anything that exists because it has to be. But what happens is that they take over. And love is something that you cannot conclude. You cannot make up your mind about it. You cannot understand it. You see, I'm talking about love now, and it's my favorite subject, really, because I've seen how people hunger for love. And especially when I practice hypnotherapy. But what I have found is that I had a tickle in my throat and it kind of took me away from what I was going to say.
The hunger for love.
Yeah, the hunger for love, thank you. The hunger for love is so strong that makes most people neurotic. Most people become maladjusted. Okay, dysfunctional.
But even
So,
to need that love is
even to need that
dysfunctional
love.
already.
Yeah, right.
So it's like, and then you
Right, and why is
pursue it,
dysfunctional
becomes
to
more.
seek love? Why is it dysfunctional
Well,
to seek love?
you're actually rejecting yourself.
Very good. You are rejecting yourself because you are a human being. The being is love itself. You see? You are love. And that's why we keep seeking it all the time, because you're always seeking yourself. There's only you. You know, there are 7 billion humans on this earth, but there's only one being, and that being is you. So you're always seeking yourself. But if you think you're someplace else, that's when we suffer. Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm seeing too that to know that you are love, that kind of takes a lot of understanding to get to that.
It takes a lot of understanding too, because that becomes our fear too. You see, you won't admit it openly here. You won't say, I don't want to be loved. But when you begin to feel what love really is, there is a fear that comes with it. Because love would imply goodness, okay, fullness. But at the same time, it implies that you are not who you think you are. You see? If anybody I were to ask, who are you right now? Who are you? Really? And then you begin to say your name, your past, the things you do, the things, whatever your conditioning, right? Well, I say, no. Right now, this second, who are you? And if you were to feel it, what would you say? Who are you?
Nobody.
Hmm?
Nobody.
I don't know.
No.
Hmm?
No.
You are love. But did you conclude that, or did you experience that, or was it just because the first thing everybody said, I have asked hundreds of people, and practically everyone said, I don't know. And that I don't know is love. Okay, got it? Because it is not the mind, it is not thought, it is not ego, it is not personality, it is not your conditioning, it is now, this moment itself. And this moment itself is love. Did you ever dance to the point where you forgot yourself? That's love. Did you make love to the point where you forgot yourself? Of course. That's love. You see? So love is anything that takes you away from the idea of who you think you are. You see? And that's the frightening part of love. But that's because we don't understand love. Because love is always makes you happy. It's always joyous. It's always fills you with energy, with aliveness. It's always fullness. But we don't understand it because every time we try to experience love, okay, we cannot experience it. Because love happens when you least are thinking about it. You see, like I said before, you know, you play soccer, for example, and you love the game. The moment you play soccer, you're in heaven, right? If you love it. Because love, again, you know, love comes first. So, and that is why love cannot be understood. You see? Because it is the one thing we want more than anything, but it's the one thing we understand the less. Well, here's some of the Facebook people, what they were saying. I thought that love was comfort, security, a commodity to buy and sell. I thought it was promises, holding on to dreams, what might be. I thought it was Hollywood, Paris, Valentine's Day, flowers and music and butterflies and everything nice, and walking together hand in hand into the sunset. Yet now again I thought I knew what love was. Love was now just a story, a concept, an idea, a word. I thought I knew that there was no such thing as love, and I laughed at those who used the word and pitied them. I stopped using the word myself and thought that I had transcended all concepts of love. There's nobody here. Love is just a story. I said nobody was there to listen, and my heart was still closed, and am I reading it okay?
Mm-hmm.
And the seeker still secretly raged, and love's lesson was not over, because it can never be over, so life knows no over. But I liked the last part here, because there's never a time when you say it is over, or I've learned enough, or I have arrived. You see, because love knows no limit. What was so beautiful about this man, the neuroscientist, is that despite his knowledge, despite his expertise, you know, he experienced something 180-degree turn, completely opposite from what he was teaching and thought he knew. You see, and of course, you see, there's another thing that happened which I didn't include incidentally. When he collapsed, he was brain dead. Okay, and if you Banyan has the book. Okay, it's called Proof of Paradise, Proof of Heaven, and it's supposed to be selling really well, just like Anita Muriani's book. You've heard of Anita Muriani? Mm-hmm. No?
Dying,
Yeah, I have.
Dying to be me.
Dying to be me is the title, right? Yeah, she's such a beautiful soul. Okay, so anyway,
what's the name of the other book you just said?
Proof of Heaven.
Proof of Heaven.
Proof of Heaven, right? Okay, so now what I'd like to talk to you about is a letter someone wrote me, and the print is a little too small. Could you read it for us, Boris?
Surely.
It's this one around here. You don't have to read the whole thing.
Okay.
And I'd like to discuss the point that he's bringing out. How to deal with fears. How to deal when we are not loving, when love is not around. Therefore we're depressed, unhappy, or whatever, or lonely. Loneliness is a very big thing. So, so therefore he tried some methods that I told him to do, and this is what he said. Okay.
So to get to the point, I've tried to apply one of the techniques from one of your videos, where you talk about feeling the feeling completely. My problem is that when I do that, I feel that trapped energy incredibly strong, and it feels like I'm going to explode from my chest to my head. A lot of trapped energy there. And with my history of being a scared hypochondriac mess, I automatically fear that I will have a heart attack or something else bad. So I get out of it before it alleviates, by walking outside the house or escaping some other way.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, you read it well. Thanks. Okay, so this is what I want to address, because a lot of people also on the internet wanted me to talk about this. So it's very important. Most of the time, any teacher will tell you that when you are suffering emotionally, you put away the story and deal only with the feeling in the body, okay? To get into your body. Eckhart Tolle also advocated this quite a lot. You've heard of Eckhart Tolle, right?
Yeah.
And to get into your body and to feel the feeling. But whenever I suggested that to most people, they didn't understand it. And they got involved with the story. And so, like this man said, that the more he did it, the worse things got. Because he's also a hypochondriac, you know, so oh, what's wrong with me? Like, you know what a hypochondriac is, eh? You know?
What is that? What does that mean?
Oh, hypochondriac is, you know, Reader's Digest used to come out with different illnesses and the symptoms. And the hypochondriac would read that book and think he's got all those illnesses. Oh, something's wrong with me. They're very body conscious. Okay, and there's nothing worse than being body conscious, believe me. You know, because you're never really well. So anyway, so now how is there other ways of doing and dealing with things in the moment? Well, first of all, the only way that you can deal with a cellular memory is this: the cells of our body. You don't learn this in nutrition, but the cells of the body are memory. Everything that you have done in the past, okay, is contained within those cells. So, and when I've done hypnotherapy, if a woman was raped, even when she was 5 or 6 years old, for example, and she'd be 35 or 40, lying down on my bed, as I have not in the state of hypnosis, she would experience that rape as if it is happening now. And the reason is because the memory cells are always active when they're triggered. When they're triggered, it is happening now. The only time we have, and it's not time, is now. There is no past and there is no future. Okay, it is not possible. Time is, can you think of now having an exit? Right? No. It's always now. So when tomorrow comes, there's no tomorrow. It's now. When yesterday happened, it's now. So to make it short, okay, everything happens now. If you don't deal with it now, and you go into the story, you keep repeating it. And it keeps repeating over and over and over again. And it gets worse and worse and worse, to the point where you go a little loony. So the moment is important. Now what happens also with our parents, well-meaning as they wanted to be, they do two things. They did two things when we were children. One, if we started complaining that we were lonely, unhappy, or things happened to us, they get bored with it and they say, oh, grow up. Okay? But let's assume they are very loving and beautiful parents. What do they do if they see their child suffering? They'll try to fix his or her pain. And there's nothing worse you can do. For example, a boy is playing in school and he's playing soccer. I keep mentioning soccer because I used to play soccer and I love it. So he's playing soccer and they called him, you know, names because he wasn't keeping up with the playing. So then he goes home crying, I feel unloved, I feel unwanted. He might not say those words, he doesn't have the vocabulary, maybe he's young. But he feels unwanted, you know, not loved by his fellow people. So then the parents say, I'll tell you what, you can forget all about it. Let's go to the zoo and forget this. Okay, to make him feel good, to fix it. But what happens is when he goes to the zoo, he forgets. But the cellular memory has not forgotten. the rejection, has not forgotten the pain of being laughed at. You see? Why? When something happens, it has to be dealt with right away. You cannot wait. Because if you wait, it takes root. You see? Now, the point is that I'm making is, how do we start dealing with stuff that we have never dealt with? And we keep living it, and by the time we are 40 and 50, it becomes so much a part of our personality that we do nothing but suffer all the time. And we don't know how to deal with it. Well, I told you a little earlier that I do Qigong. Okay? Now, Qigong is the generation of the Qi energy. The Qi is the God-given power, the love that you are. Okay? The Qi is the life force. You're familiar with that, right? Okay. Now, you can activate this force very easily. Let's do an experiment now so that you can prove it to yourself. Take a deep breath. Okay, now do the following meridians. Now take a deep breath. It's more open, isn't it? You find it's more open? Your breath? Yeah, it opens up the lung meridians. Okay, now our body is made, there are 7 chakras, but there are more scattered also, but 7 are major. And from them come meridian points. In acupuncture, for example, they do these meridian points. Now, these meridian points are all over the body. Okay? Now, when you are suffering a cellular memory, you usually feel the pain either in the stomach, which is the control chakra, or in the chest, the Anahata chakra, which is the love center. So maybe you're someone you love, you have lost. You've lost him, so, you know. So you feel the pain in the chest. And the stomach here is control, okay, anger. So how do you start healing that? Okay, let's do one more experiment and start moving the Qi. Okay, put your finger there, please. Press the middle and press the other. Now place the hands like this and move them together. Do you feel the energy? It's almost like elastic pulling. Do you feel the pull?
Yes.
If you're feeling the pull, wonderful. It means you've already located the energy in your body. Okay, now begin to feel that your hands are becoming warm and they have lots of energy. And then, where the body is feeling the pain from rejection, from abandonment, from being laughed at, from whatever, okay, if you have the courage to do it, that would be great. You generate enough energy and you put your hands there, in that place. You see? And you can also tap. Incidentally, there's a lot of, if you start tapping, for example, you see, the kidneys, for example, you know, different parts of the body. These are the meridian, and you give them energy. And you find that your body becomes more alive. I did this in order for me to be able to talk to I didn't even go out. But anyway, so in other words, you can generate a lot of Qi energy by doing this. Now there are 2 things that happen. Most of the time, if I tell people to do this, and it's very effective and it's very beautiful, okay, chances are that the moment they are depressed or unhappy or lonely or whatever, they rather be thinking about it than do it. But if you really want to grow fast, if you really want to speed up your evolution, your understanding, okay, you will do it. So what you do is, okay, I'm feeling very lonely right now, feeling great gut-wrenching pain. Take a deep breath, sit very still, and then locate for a moment where you are feeling it in the body. But if the story keeps coming, oh, but they don't love me, but there's something wrong with me, nobody wants me. If that starts coming, that's a story. That has nothing to do with the moment. Okay? Just come back to the body, come back to the body. Feel it in the body, where it is in the body. Then generate energy. You can do it all in 1 minute or less. And you release, actually release that energy from being placed there. The chi will remove that block, you see. And in time, in time, you will be able to heal, and what happens is the love nature that you are takes fruition. See, that's how that's how it happens. See, we are love. We cannot be other than love. But that love has to move inside us. It has to be encouraged. It has to be participated in. You see, all healing happens through love. And by loving yourself, some people says, thank you, Sharp.
You're getting good at that.
Yeah. Yeah, so they say, well, how do you love yourself? You see, people think you're going to love your ego, or you're going to love your personality, you're going to love... No. You just see that within love, there's only perfection, and the imperfection that you're seeing in the moment is okay. You see, that's what it means. Self-compassion. To have self-compassion, that if right now I'm feeling lonely, do the breathing, do the technique, but you accept it also. The fact is that it's there. I cannot fight it, because if I fight it, it gets worse. Okay, so are there any questions from what we covered, the mystery of love? Incidentally, when I talk about mystery of love, and I repeat, and I talk about it as if I know something, I don't. I don't know what love is, and I don't think there's anybody living who does. Okay, the same with consciousness. You cannot understand it. There's no one on this earth that can understand what consciousness is, but we know it exists. We know it's there. We know it's real, because we are conscious, and that consciousness and love are one and the same thing. Okay, are there any questions? Yeah.
Is the fear of love that you talk about, is that like anticipating rejection?
Yes. Yeah, because you believe so much that there's something wrong with you. I'm talking generally here. Yes. Okay? That if you begin to say, I'll accept love, or I see myself as love, but what if? You see, comes back. That's fear, the doubt. Okay?
So you can't even appreciate the experience of love.
But if you begin to see that you cannot be other than love, you cannot be other than love. It's not possible. Because that is the very nature of being. That is the nature of God. That is the nature of goodness. You see? There is nothing else but that. And so, by seeing that very clearly, in time, you'll see that all the time you're trying to get away from love. But I feel lonely, but I feel something is wrong with me, but I'm not good enough, but. You see? And all the time you are trying to defeat the very nature that you are. Once you see the contradiction, once you begin to see what you're doing to yourself, that's a very important step. Once you see clearly what you're doing to yourself. And that becomes a great change in itself. Okay, and then the love starts, but remember, you don't create love for yourself. Love is always there. You just make an opening for it. In other words, you don't let the fear take over. See, fear is immediate. The moment you seek love, there is fear in it. Okay? Oh, there's a beautiful woman, I'd like to meet her. Oh, she's gorgeous, I'd like to date her, blah, blah, blah. And then she's so perfect for you, because you see her, that you're afraid of being rejected, right? So the time comes when you're going to meet her, but you cannot stop at that moment. What if she rejects me? What if she laughs at me? What if this, what if that happens? Okay? That always happens. The moment you begin to seek love or want love, immediately fear comes in. Why?
Because of the rejection?
Yeah, but why do we feel rejected? You feel rejection?
Because you don't recognize you are love.
Because you don't recognize you are love. You see, you think that you, you know, you want to gain love, you want to become love. You don't. You are it already.
But it seems like there's so many definitions to love. You know, so.
It has to, because it's a mystery.
But I mean, it's almost like every person, of course, has a different view of what love is. So to understand that you are love could mean many, many different things.
Yeah, of course. That's the growth of the love. It will mean anything that you think it means to you. But it's more than that. It's unending. Of course it means different things. Love is everything. There is nothing outside of love. Nothing. And you are that. But then you have an idea what you think love is. And then you see it's more than that. And it's more than that. And you begin to see how grand you are. How incredibly grand you are. There's no limit to you.
It's more of an isness.
Hmm?
It's more of an isness.
Yeah, it's an isness, yeah.
Than a
Yeah, yeah.
verb of any kind.
Yeah. But if you start talking about what love is, what you think love is, we can have hundreds of people, and it will be interesting to watch everybody telling their. But you cannot, because love is.